This is another Poet at War General Report. And here's your General, Joshua David Ling.
Good luck.
Good morning, everyone. It's good to see you, hear from you, which I'm not doing either of, but hi. This is another General's Report. This one's a little bit earlier in the morning than I usually do, because I have quite the busy weekend coming up. I'm headed back to Alpharetta to do some consulting work on some streaming systems, and yeah, a lot of work, generally speaking. I have a new cup. I'm pretty fond of it. Just a basic Braves tumbler. Good for cold coffee especially. So, let's take a sip. Delicious. Delicious. So, I have seen 2 movies recently, and I have had one other story I've been working through that is not a movie, but is very much a cinematic story that I kind of felt like I need to talk about all 3 and sort of tie them together into a talk a little bit. I don't know how well this is going to work, but we're going to find out. It all made more sense in my head the other day, but maybe it'll come together. The first was The Boy and the Heron by Miyazaki, Studio Ghibli, however you pronounce that. Fantastic film. I do think it might actually be my new favorite Ghibli film. Not because it's perfect. There's a lot of things in it that are there's a lot of things in it that are not as coherent as other Miyazaki films. And he does kind of operate in a dreamscape in a lot of his movies and stuff, and I get that, but there's a lot of stuff that just doesn't land, but what does land, ooh, goodness. It is wonderful, wonderful stuff. I'm going to try to keep it mostly spoiler-free, and mostly talk in terms that people who have seen these movies will understand. Then I've been, for a little while now, off and on, watching through some Let's Plays of Myst and Riven, especially. Riven and Myst are video games by Cyan Studios, whatever they're called, and they are puzzle games that sort of have a steampunk environment with a bunch of other sci-fi mixed in. Very, very cool story series. I started getting back into it through the Let's Plays because my father played them as I grew up. And I remember seeing them and remember talking to him about them, especially Riven. Riven came out when I was around 7, so I have a much better memory of it than Myst, but I've played a little bit of Myst since then. And I also just, like I said, I've been going through the lore, and it's utterly fascinating. I might do a little bit more talk about that because people are less inclined to go into that than the other 2. And the third one is Hacksaw Ridge. Just saw Hacksaw Ridge with my wife for the first time. I know it came out a while ago, but I just never got around to it until recently. And I think that all 3 of them, these stories, have had a profound impact on me recently. I think that with Miyazaki, the idea of a motherly figure, actually a couple motherly figures, doing what they were supposed to do, was very, very beautiful. With Myst and Riven, it's a story about creating video games on the meta. It's the idea that we're creating worlds in a way, and what the consequences of that are in a very big, broad, sweeping philosophical manner, which is utterly fascinating, to be honest with you. And then Hacksaw Ridge, the especially for those who have seen it, the just one more, Lord, just give me one more, just give me one more, and standing up for what you believe in the face of all adversity. For those who are wondering, yeah, no, I'm not a pacifist. I do think he was wrong to have the specific conviction that he had, but he reasoned it from scripture and held to it with full conviction, which I love. And as a result, God used that for great good. So, what can we take from all three? Kind of becomes the question. While I really want to do a much more deep dive into Myst and Riven, especially in the future, and might actually do, if I don't have a million other things come up, might actually do more of a spoilery deep dive on each of these, especially if people want to hear them. Myst and Riven, especially Riven, is continuing to teach me how much my father actually did enjoy mysteries and puzzles. And I thank God for that, because if he didn't, he would not be the first reformed part of our family back in the Reformed faith since before the Civil War. Post our last Reformed ones that I'm sure were in a Reformed church was 1700s. And we did have some Christians in there, and some that I very much think left the faith, but I'm not positive. But it is fascinating to see all of the things God has done for our family through especially my grandfather and my father. And the things that my father loved, the scripture, of course, above all the others, but looking at all the other things that he found goodness and beauty in, because he was not afraid of pagan ideas. He believed that the Bible transformed his mind and that he could have discernment. But what's more than that, he believed that God was truly the giver of all good things. And all good things, even by pagans, which I really don't know much about the Millers. For all I know, they could be Christians. The Millers who created Myst and Riven, and the other games. But it is fascinating to see in this game a character who fancies himself, especially Riven, a god. He fancies himself a god because he can create worlds by writing in a book. And his son, who does not see himself as a god, but has an incredible responsibility. I think that speaks volumes to, my dad definitely wanted to see Gen, the one who wanted to see himself as a god. He wanted to see Gen get his. But he also wanted to say Catherine, Atris's wife, Atris being the one who does not see himself as a god. I know I'm jumping around, but in that story is all kinds of things. My father breaking free from Pelagian Arminianism as the son over the one who sees himself as a god. That's especially broad and very fast and loose with the text, but it's there nonetheless. Also just seeing the nature of being creative and how one can take the tendency of becoming a god and wielding power bluntly and tyrannically over their worlds versus actually trying to create something good for the inhabitants of that world, for the for other people who would visit there. Taking it up as a noble cause and seeking to do good with it. Really, really fascinating stuff. The boy and his Heron playing around with really fancy time and portal mechanics, also similar to Myst and Riven. Lots of time and portal mechanics. That's sort of floating around in the leaf-mould of my mind now as I've watched these things. This is how these stories all kind of resonate with me. Times and portals should be used in stories more often than not to convey a transcendental moral or emotion. Narnia did this. Hacksaw Ridge does not have the portal aspect, but Hacksaw Ridge has the transcendental aspect. There was a transcendental aspect to what he experienced, and what they all experienced through him, in regard to he wasn't fighting within their system. This is going to be real fun for anyone who hasn't read these stories, but I guess that what I'm doing is I'm really encouraging you to go and read and listen to and watch good stories that people have been recommending for a long time. Take the time to experience them. They will revitalize you as an artist. And give you new and great ideas, and take the time to really sit in them and let them become, as Tolkien would say, part of the leaf mold of your mind. I'm not sure what all I'm going to be getting out of this ultimately. I have some stories in mind now, especially for Jackie the Phoenix, which is a old story of mine that I'm revitalizing in the world of courage, my superheroes. Yeah. There's a lot there. There's a lot to explore. So take the time to explore. I think that's the point of this one. Which really fits with Myst and Riven, because the whole game is exploring. Miyazaki takes the time to explore. Hacksaw Ridge, there's definitely exploring. Exploring to find all the souls that may have been lost along the way, had you not stumbled across them. I've been praying, God, give me one more. My friend, Chris, who I became friends with when I was a teenager, through pro wrestling. He became a Christian when we role played together. Wasn't always good role play, but it was us trying to create stories that would help each of us. In many ways, it was a lot of my reps for what I do now. And while I don't need necessarily conversions, because I'm not an evangelist. I'm evangelical, but not an evangelist, right? What I do want is more souls to know that they're not dead yet, as Tolkien said. More souls to notice that they may be down, but they're not out. So, Lord, give me one more as I'm exploring. Give me one more as I'm moving through all the death and decay in this world, trying to bring joy and thankfulness and sunshine. Lord, give me one more. That's what I'm really getting at with this one. If you're going to be moving on to Poets of War, enjoy. If not, and you're just listening to this part, be your family's bard. Do not turn to the right or to the left, and the Lord will be with you wherever you go. We'll see you next time in the trenches on Poets at War.